Thank you, Mr. President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. What was the role of the Prime Minister's office in the awarding of funding under the Community Sport Infrastructure Program?
Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Prime Minister has directly addressed that precise question on a number of occasions. The role of the Prime Minister's office was the same role as the role of Prime Minister's office in time immemorial, and that is that they passed on representations to relevant ministers in relation to grants programs, and that is, of course, the role that his office played and that offices before his Prime Ministerial office have played. The Prime Minister said at the National Press Club just last week, what Prime Ministers have always done is support their colleagues when matters are raised with them, and that has been done since time immemorial, with Prime Ministers making representations to relevant ministers in those programs. The Prime Minister's office provided information based on the representations made to them, including information about other funding options or programs relevant to project proposals received. And the decision-maker, of course, the decision-maker in relation to this was Senator McKenzie, and she did a great job. The sports grants program is a great program. It's very popular, it's very successful, and you know what? The Labor Party should be very grateful to Senator McKenzie, because the original recommendations received by Sports Australia would have the independent Sports Australia decisions would have only seen 26% of the approved projects going to Labor electorates. And Senator McKenzie lifted that to 35% through her discretion, from 26% to 35%. And you should have been grateful. And you know what? Some Labor MPs were quite grateful. In fact, I'm reading here how Sport Australia is managed by the Minister for Sport, Bridget McKenzie, whom I thank for campaigning for further investment in this precious asset. One Anthony Albanese, thanking her for $500,000 more to save Dawn Fraser Poole. Here was the leader of the opposition.
Order, Senator Cormann. Order, Senator Cormann.
Back then, of course, he was.
Senator Cormann, there's a lot of order. I was seeking to call. There was a lot of noise. I was calling the minister to order. Senator Wong, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. An email from Senator McKenzie's office to Sport Australia on 7th December 2018 states, and I quote, "We have just been advised by the Prime Minister's office that there have been some projects on the list funded under another grants program, so we have been asked to make a slight adjustment." What was the slight adjustment?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. What I would say to Senator Wong is that what she's just read out is 100% consistent with my previous answer. Of course, I mean there are a range of. I'm not aware of the specific circumstance at hand because I didn't have visibility of the specific decision making. But what I would say to you is that, of course, at any one point in time, there are a number of grants programs that are operated across government, and from time to time there is the opportunity for overlap. But of course, what I would also point out from an Auditor-General's report is I would just talk about. In one instance, ministers explicitly decided to waive the project eligibility criteria for an application.
Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Point of order, direct relevance. This is, if he wants to read from the Auditor-General's report, how about he reads on from the one we're asking questions about? But more importantly, I asked a specific question about what was the slight adjustment. The minister has dismissed that. If he doesn't know, I asked that he take it on notice.
On the first point of order you raised, Senator Wong, I do accept the point you raised. Another Auditor-General's report is not relevant to this, directly relevant to this particular question. On the second point you raised, I can't instruct a minister how to answer a question. You've made the point. The minister was being directly relevant. Other than that, brief observation. The minister to continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm just going through the hypocrisy of this line of questioning. That is why I was about to point to a previous Auditor-General's report in the portfolio of the now Leader of the Opposition, and a damning report. I mean, like the report.
Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Direct relevance, Mr. President.
I asked the minister to return to the question, which, before he started talking about the alternative report, was being directly relevant. albeit he only has 2 seconds to continue his answer. Senator Cormann.
I already answered the question asked.
Order. Senator Wong, a final supplementary
Thank
question.
you, Mr President. When asked at the National Press Club whether there was anything wrong in using public funds for private political interests, Mr Morrison responded, "That's not why I did it. That's not why I did it." What exactly did the Prime Minister do?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, we've been very, very clear all the way through. We completely reject the premise of this proposition that somehow this was the decision-making in relation to this grants programme was driven by the sort of private political considerations that you are asserting. We reject that. We reject that. Well, we accept the 4 recommendations. We accept the 4 recommendations, which we accept the 4 recommendations. You clearly didn't listen to the Prime Minister's speech at the press club last week. We've accepted all 4 recommendations and are acting on them. But let me just say, we are elected to make decisions, and whether you like it or not, we are the elected government of Australia. And right now, it is this government that makes decisions on the allocation of grants and the like, and that is what happened here. It was done appropriately, and indeed, Labor electorates were doing way better than they would have under the independent decision-making of Sports Australia.
Order.